Welcome back to Believe in Jets, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. My name is Rami Lavi. That is Bilal Powell, former Jets running back BP. I was watching this. I'd never seen this before. I was just watching TV. I saw a commercial for a Reese's cup that has chocolate lava at the bottom, like under. So it's got like the chocolate shell, the peanut butter, and then chocolate lava. I need to get my hands on one of those. Have you ever seen those?
I haven't. Is that some like Halloween stuff that they did or something?
Well, I don't think so. Halloween's over. Why would they be advertising it today, right?
Or maybe it could be on sale. Who knows?
Oh, by the way, are you one of those guys you go in the store the day after Halloween, you're like up in Walmart or whatever, getting all the candy in the world because it's half off?
Yes, absolutely. You'll see me definitely doing that stuff.
Are you?
And I'm saving it for next year's Halloween too.
Oh God, so we're getting stale candy from you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Are you a full-size bar house or you going with the minis?
No, I gotta have the whole
full size.
Like if I'm gonna do a cheat thing, like if I'm gonna cheat the diet, might as well just cheat the diet. Like don't tease it. Because then you can't just have one little fun size.
Right, exactly.
Like
yeah, no one had a tiny Kit Kat and then was like, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Good. No.
On Thursday night, what was that like for you? Were you watching the Jets while like trick-or-treaters are coming over? What took I know you were texting me, so obviously you were watching the game.
I was watching the game. The neighbors did something, and they were outside and doing something. So you had kids walking up. So we really didn't put candy out because we were next door, and the neighbors had a big thing of candy out. Most of the kids came through. We didn't have too much traffic though because our neighborhood is not flat. Like you got to walk up like an incline and then like down and stuff. So it's a real tough exercise. So I don't think a lot of people walk our neighborhood.
Is that how you're getting your workouts in these days?
A little bit.
A little.
Mainly coaching is what my time.
Why is that? Like, how do you get a workout coaching?
Well, I like to be involved with the drill. Like, I like to kind of when I'm doing my corrections and I'm coaching, I like to kind of give an example of what it should look like. So, when 2 hours goes by, that's a lot of movement. So,
are you coaching a specific skill group or a specific
running backs?
Oh, you're specifically coaching running backs. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
let me ask you this. Maybe you could explain this to me because I don't get it. There's 1,000 bodies flying. There's people going 1,000,000 miles a minute. Like, obviously, it's schemed where the hole's going to be, but sometimes, like, you got to see the hole, and it's not where it was supposed to be originally. You just got to hit it. Like, how do you, can you explain, like, what the mindset is when you get the ball? All right, finding the right gap and where to run through.
Honestly, it's just instincts. It's the first progress in a run is do what you're coached to do. So you have footwork, you have aim point, and you have a read for every scheme when it comes to an offense. And outside of that, the X's and O's move in real life. So what I teach on the board or what I teach in the classroom, you have to go out and be a football player at the same time. So that's something that you can't coach. You can't coach a player's instinct. You can only coach him to the beginning of a play. And after that, after making plays, that's on the player himself. So it's something that, a lot of guys don't see. A lot of guys see it because they understand who's blocking who. And if a defense has them, they know they can't go that way. So they know I got to go this way, or they might notice a look on film. Like everything plays a part in some of the things that those guys do on the football field.
You have any kids trying the backwards hurdle that Saquon Barkley pulled off this week? You got guys trying that in practice now that they saw that on Sunday?
So now you can't hurdle in high school. That's a personal foul. Yeah, it's a big penalty. So you have to take that hurdling out. And so in my drills, I like to never waste time on what we do. So in my drills, I'm like, hey, everything that I'm putting in your toolbox here, you need to take to the football field. And hurdling is not one because we get flagged for it now. So, but that was an impressive move by Saquon.
Saquon. Like, that's nuts. And people are saying, well, it only gained a couple of yards, but that's crazy to be able to do.
It was a first down. What are you talking about?
Well, no, it was a first down anyway. Meaning,
yeah, it was a first down.
The hurdle only gained a few more yards.
Yeah, but it was like a 10-yard gain. Like
Yeah, no, it was an
they
awesome.
forgot he made
The
two guys
spin.
miss.
Yeah.
He made two guys miss before that, and then made the third guy miss by jumping over him backwards with his eyes closed. So I mean, you're not going to see that probably ever again. Honestly, I mean, in our lifetime.
Big night in America on Tuesday night. And I don't know if you heard, but the one, and I don't know what side of the aisle you fall on. We didn't talk about it, but I can think of at least one positive for Jets fans. It might affect the Jets. Woody Johnson could be going back to London.
Who knows, Woody Johnson? If Woody goes back to London, then Chris is back as a chairman.
He hired Adam Gase.
Oh yeah, see. Well,
not necessarily a good thing. He did hire Joe Douglas also, and Joe Douglas talked to the media. He met the media on whatever day it was, yesterday, I guess Wednesday, and it was just like he looked like a dead man walking. He didn't answer anything. He was just kind of like, his body language was so down. He just was like, yeah, look, I serve at the behest of the owner, and just felt like somebody who's been totally neutered, which is essentially what Woody Johnson did. Like, if there's anything that could save the franchise, it would be the owner leaving. Like, I believe it.
You think so? I mean, why would the owner leaving like affect winning or losing?
Because he keeps getting involved. He keeps getting in the way. Like, if he would throw his money at the team and get out of the way, if he would do what James Dolan has done recently, sure. But he's not. He loves being involved. He loves making decisions. He's the one who went out and decided to pay Hassan Reddick. He's the one who went out and traded for Devonta Adams. He's the one who brought in Aaron Rodgers. He's the one who fired Robert Saleh. Like, at some point, you got to let football people make the football decisions, right?
I think so. And you also got to go coach and play football. And Woody Johnson cannot catch a football. And right now, our team is sitting at number 5 with the most drops. That's not a Woody Johnson problem. So, as much as people would say, well, it's the owner's fault, I think it's a whole organization. From scouting department.
Organization starts from the top, though.
It does, but at the end of the day, like, he pays those guys to go get the best players. All right, why would you not go get a Devonta Adams? I want a Devonta Adams on my team. I wish I would have had a Devonta Adams. You know why? Because I had a Brandon Marshall and I had an Eric Decker. Those guys helped us win. So, to a certain extent, I think the owner has. But I do think that there's other people who should be held accountable. Obviously, firing and getting a new play caller has made a difference in the New York Jets. Now you see, I think it's you seeing it. It's a different spark to the offense. So there's so many different things that correlate with winning and losing.
Even in the first half, because the second half is the best half of football they've played offensively all year. I don't think it's particularly close against Houston, but even in the first half, you saw creativity. You saw some things happen. The Corley drop was hilarious because I texted you. I was like, hey, you've been talking about him. You wanted to see him. I told you I gave up on already seeing him. And you texted me earlier in the day, no, don't give up yet. We're going to see him. And then I texted you, yo, look. And then you right back, fumble. I was like, what? No, you saw it right away. I was like, damn it. So, I mean, but we're still seeing the creativity in the offense. We're seeing different movement. We're seeing pre-snap movement. We're seeing them get to the line quicker. We're seeing the nonverbal communication. You saw Rodgers give the thumbs down to Devonta Adams, and he just goes. Like, the offense is finally starting to look like a functional, high-powered offense. What did you see in the second half of that game from the Jets offense?
I saw a team that everyone was expecting to be this year. That's the expectations I think Jet fans had, the organization had for this offense, and I think it's clicking. You need some improvement, especially when you're trying to go into November. I tell you all the time, just like I told you last year, November is the time when the teams get in, and then you see those teams that were in kind of, they start losing those games with injuries and guys just not clicking and things not going teams' way. But right now, I think they needed that. I mean, they were averaging under 10 points in the second half. That's number, 23 in the league? 9.4 points a game in the second half. And you see them go out and put up some points and show us a glimpse of what the offense should look like.
What about Garrett Wilson? Those 2 catches, the first one people are forgetting about. He catches it one-handed in stride and runs into the end zone. That's crazy too. But obviously everyone wants to talk about the second one. What did you think of those Garrett Wilson plays?
I think it was a phenomenal catch. I really do. But at this point, right now, I would like to see two hands on the ball, New York receivers, because right now you are number 5 with the most drops, and that's 20. So, any chance you get receivers, Garrett Wilson, yourself included, two hands on the ball, but phenomenal catch. I think it's something that's going to help market him, and especially in the primetime game. He probably has more followers and who's this and, TikTok and Instagram, so many different things. So I think they mentioned something about him being the first player since they started tracking the one-hand touchdowns. I think he has 2 since 2017.
Oh, I got you.
I think he's been the first player since they started tracking it. So that's good for him from a marketing standpoint, and building his confidence too, and seeing the future in Garrett Wilson.
2 questions about that. They printed out T-shirts with the picture of his catch on it, and they handed it out to everyone at practice yesterday. Is that weird? Like, everyone wearing a T-shirt with your buddy, like your teammate's face on it?
No, I think that's what you want from your locker room. It's all fun, man. The game of football is long. The season's long. It's hard. You want to have fun, man. You're getting toward the holidays. It's one of them things where you're just looking to just keep embracing, something that is very minute, man. You're part of a fraternity of guys that, there's only been 27,000 guys that did this. And you're a part of that. You make it fun for guys like that. You help build his confidence. And, I think it's something that could be the energy and the chemistry that turns the season around. Let's hope so, right? At least.
I hope so. And by the way, I see it with you. Like, I see the guys, like whenever I talk to Quincy, or I talk to even Quinn Williams, or we talk to Willie, like any of these guys, you see the way they talk about you and the bond that you guys created. It's a bond for life. You guys have gone in all different directions, but I know you're still friends with Brian Winter. Like, there are guys, right, that just like, you guys are bros for life from doing this together.
It is, man. It's a lifelong thing. And you go back and you remember all of those like hard days, tough times and the ups and downs, and there's nothing like it, man. It's a brotherhood, and there's a line of network far beyond the game of football.
Yeah, the other thing about the Garrett Wilson catch, which maybe you could explain to me, you're an athlete, professional athlete. I am not. But how does one have their shin touch the ground before their knee touches the ground? I mean, I am sitting here at home trying it on my couch, like trying to figure out a way to get my shin touched down, to bend my leg in a way where my shin would touch the ground before my knee would touch the ground. Can you do that? Because I can't do that.
I definitely can't do it now. I mean, I probably could have tried it years ago, but that was just an early Christmas gift to Garrett Wilson. I mean, that's something you don't practice that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously guys do, the receivers, they do practice the toe drag and the toe touch, trying to get 2 feet in. And, if you don't know the rules, anything outside of like the toes or the feet is considered 2 feet down. So the shin, the knee, the elbow, anything that comes down before the foot is considered 2. So I don't think he practiced that, and that's probably not something he practices all the time, or if never. But it was a good catch. It was good body control, good concentration, and honestly, that was something that they needed. They needed that catch. I was 3rd and 19. That was a catch that they needed. It's hard to convert third downs and long in this football league, let alone go score a touchdown. So I think that was probably one of the catches that changed the dynamic of that game.
On that drive, they went for 4th down twice. The first time, I wasn't even sure they were going to snap it. They're about the 50-yard line, and Rodgers runs up to the line. They get to the line quick, finally. Rodgers is yelling his ass off, trying to get guys to jump. He's moving guys in motion, trying to get guys to jump. It's 4th and 2. And I'm like, they're probably not going to snap it. Let's see what happens. All of a sudden, he gives a little thumbs down to Davante Adams. I bet he didn't even call a play to the rest of the offense. I bet there was no play called. He just looked at Davante, gives him the thumbs down. All at once, the ball snapped, and he throws the little double move, just go to Davante, and they convert the 4th down. Do you think there was a play called, or it didn't look like anything was called? They just ran up to the line on 4th and 2. He's trying to get guys to jump, and if he sees something, he's going to call it. That's the difference Davante Adams makes in this offense. That's why it's special to have a guy like that here. What do you think? Can you explain like what happens for the rest of the team on a play like that?
On a play like that, I would definitely tell you, going back to when Aaron Rodgers talked about the cadence. And in cadences, there is a color and then a number that lets the offense know, hey, we're not moving the ball. Everybody sit still. And then there's another cadence, all right, that, hey, we're going, snap me the football, and everybody do your job. And I think it was one of those times where they were trying to get the defense to jump off sides, and the defense is taught, hey, don't jump off sides. And sometimes defenses relax in a situation like that, not thinking you're going to snap it. So that is an advantage to the offense, and that throws off as long as there's a line of communication, because the key to being a successful offense is over communicating. You have to communicate. And if two guys are on the same page, that's how you become a successful offense. And I'm sure there probably wasn't a play call, but Rodgers said, hey, snap me the ball now, snap me the ball, we're going. And he had his communication with Davante Adams, and it was efficient. First out.
You love seeing that work. That's what like Jet fans dreamed of. But Davante Adams gets the concussion on that play, and then they had another 4th down later in the drive that they go for. This time it would have been like a 20-something yard field goal, but of course you have the new field goal kicker who they brought in. They go for that one, and Rodgers gets a penalty called, and that's one where it's like, hey, that's a Rodgers respect call. They called a PI, or I think they actually called a holding while Rodgers was in the pocket. There wasn't a lot there. But then they get to 3rd and 19, and actually, if they would have had to kick the field goal on 4th and 19, they would have been further back from where they went for it on 4th and 2 to kick the field goal. So it was like, oh my God, they're going to have to kick the field goal here. And then Garrett makes the incredible catch. And it, like you said, it changes the course of the game. Can it spark the season? Now, the offense has looked good, but now they removed a piece from the offense. We know Allen Lazard's on injury reserve. He's not coming back another 3 weeks at least. And they traded away Mike Williams. I know he hasn't done a ton in the offense, but why would you trade away a guy from what has been your strength now? Now your offense and your wide receiver group is your strength. Why would you trade that guy away?
Honestly, I think there's just no chemistry. There's a, you can kind of get a sense of Mike Williams probably thinking that he's not Aaron Rodgers' guy. And as a
talked
receiver,
about it. When he got to Pittsburgh, they asked him, they said, why do you think the chemistry didn't work for you and Rodgers? He said he was hurt during training camp because he's coming off the ACL. And because Rodgers is so detailed with everything, he just didn't have time to develop that detailed communication with him. And so he said they just never got on the same page. Rodgers also said that Mike is not the loudest guy, so maybe there's just not a communication there back and forth, and it's just more of a, he can fit into an offense in Pittsburgh where it's just, hey, you do what the coaches are telling you, and there's not as much of a communication?
I mean, listen, you can just tell. As a former player, I can tell when a guy kind of has that feeling that he's not a guy's guy, and you kind of sense that. And you didn't see the leadership. I don't know Mike Williams, but there was no sense of leadership from him. There was no encouraging going on. There was no communication. I never seen him like on camera talking to Garrett Wilson or encouraging a young guy or talking to anyone. You just never seen that from him. And, I think it was a good trade for both sides mutually. It was a good trade, trade away a guy that isn't bringing the spark that you probably thought he was going to bring when you brought him in. And then you get over to Pittsburgh and, George Pickens needs a guy like that. I mean, they just traded off a receiver to the Panthers. The Steelers did. And now Russell Wilson is coming in. He's elevated the pass game. Who knows? Mike Williams could go over there and help them win some football games. He just wasn't that fit. We talked about McCole Hardman last year. Why wasn't he playing? He probably just wasn't the fit. So, that happens when, you have your picks. You bring your guys in, and maybe it was the wrong guy, and not saying that he's a bad guy, but maybe he was just the wrong guy. And, hopefully, I always wish guys plenty of success when they go on, guys picking their family up, moving to different cities and states. I think that's the part that a lot of people don't understand being in this business. He's picking up, moving his family or whoever it is picking his life up and moving. And I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, that is a part that you don't really consider as a fan. He did sign a 1-year contract in New York, so I'm not sure he picked up and moved his whole family knowing it was just a 1-year deal in New York. But can you imagine, middle of the year, it's like you're going from New York to Pittsburgh. You know what I mean?
I couldn't imagine.
Speaking of Deontay Johnson, though,
hey, at least he's going to a city where all the professional teams are actually in the city.
They're winning also. I thought that's what you were going to say. Like Pittsburgh, you're going from New York to Pittsburgh, which wins. Yes, I don't know. Did you live in New Jersey or did you live in New York?
I lived in New Jersey.
So that's almost better though, right? It's easier.
It is, but it's easy for us. But then when people come in town to visit, they really think you live in New York. They think that New York is just you can skip a rock over to New York City. No.
Yeah, but you really can. Where did you
live?
No,
it's an hour drive.
Where'd you live in New Jersey?
So I lived in Morris County. It was 30 miles, but it was an hour drive. The commute is crazy here. And sometimes if you leave 5 minutes too late, that hour drive turns into 3 hours trying to get through the Lincoln Tunnel. So, it
and then they close the Holland Tunnel every night for no reason, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
No apparent reason.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah. Oh, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson was traded to
the Panthers.
Well, then he got traded back to Baltimore this week at the trade deadline. So he's back. So he's back in the AFC North, which is kind of funny. You think about that from a Pittsburgh perspective, it was why would I want to? I would never trade him to Baltimore in the division to a rival.
Yeah.
But now he ends up on a rival. So similarly, the Jets, they're chasing Pittsburgh in the standings. Pittsburgh has a wild card spot right now, and they already beat you. So if the Jets are serious about their playoff hopes this year, why would they trade a guy to a team that they're directly competing with?
I don't think they probably thought he was productive. And, they traded him off. They didn't make it hard to be traded. So, they could have kept him. They could have denied the trade.
Or just traded him somewhere else, though. You could have traded him to the NFC. I don't know.
But who wanted him? That's the thing. There's not – he hasn't put much on tape to so you take the best available, option for him. And a 5th-round pick for a guy that hasn't had the production that he's had, as a veteran, you take the 5th-round pick and you bank on that he goes over to the other team and doesn't do well. I'm assuming, but I'm sure there wasn't teams knocking on the door to get Mike Williams. Let's be honest. If he was balling, then maybe. So,
yeah, no, I agree with you. Another guy who was moved at the deadline was Quentin Jefferson, former Jets defensive tackle, goes from the Browns to Buffalo. He was cut because of another trade that the Browns made. I'm just curious, I would have thought the Jets, who look like they kind of need help at DT before the last couple of weeks when Quentin has really stepped up, why would they not just go get him back? And now he ends up with a rival going to Buffalo, going to your division rival.
That's true. And honestly, man, he's going to go over and get meaningful snaps. He'll probably go over and be the 3rd, 4th defensive tackle, probably go in and relieve Ed Oliver. Is that DeQuan Jones over there?
Mm-hmm.
But he's a 9-year guy, 4th team. It's not like he's going to go over there and have a Pro Bowl year.
For sure. He just got cut.
He just got cut, exactly. So, I think he'll go over there and give some depth to the Buffalo Bills defensive line and relieve those 2 guys that I just named. I don't think he'll be an impact. I don't think he'll affect the Jets when we play the Buffalo Bills at all. I think he's just a guy who is a veteran. They're looking just for a veteran guy to come fill some depth, and he was already there. So, just bringing the guy back who's familiar with the defense, who's familiar with the organization.
Yep. The other thing, last thing I wanted to mention about Mike Williams before we go, sometimes it feels like, and we've talked about this now for 2 years, and you've been telling me this for a long time, Aaron Rodgers makes all the decisions, right? What Rodgers wants, that's what Aaron Rodgers gets.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers didn't have good chemistry with Mike Williams, so he shipped him out of here. And then when they asked Rodgers,
you think Aaron shipped Mike out of there?
That's what I'm asking you. You talk about his say so and everything he does. Would you be shocked? Because guess what? When they talked about who's going to step up in place of Aaron Rodgers goes, I think Irv Charles really needs to get a look. And then when they ask Coach about it, he goes, Irv Charles is a special teamer. He's a really good special teamer, but he's not a wide receiver. But Rodgers mentioned him in his press conference, so now the coach is mentioning him in his press conference. Like, don't you want to... Like, the first name I would have said was Malachi Corley. You would have said anyone but Irv Charles? Like, come on, man. So, like, how much of this is Rodgers playing a role in that?
Maybe Aaron is, like, preparing to become a GM in the future.
I think he's preparing to become a presidential candidate. Did you see the... No, you didn't see this? You saw that his odds are, like... He basically has, like, close odds to, like, Kamala Harris as being the next president in 2028.
Don't do it. Just go be a general manager or something in scouting department. He'll be like a president for an organization. But I think he's practicing for this, man. And a lot of guys do it, man, when they know they're transitioning out. You probably would see him somewhere being someone's general manager. Mark my word. I don't think he's an analyst like a Tom Brady going on, or Drew Brees tried it, and Tony Romo. I think he wants to be in the office and call shots, and I think he's practicing on it now.
Have you listened to Tom on the broadcast?
Is he struggling a little bit?
I think so. I mean, there's a few things. Number one,
it's hard. Can I tell you that's hard? Like, the play-by-play is extremely hard. The NFL.
Have you done it?
Yeah, well, they did boot camp. So the NFL does a boot camp for 25 current and former players, and I had a chance to go out there, and they put you through this thing for like a week, man. You're doing play-by-play, you're doing radio, you're doing in studio, you're doing podcasts. And let me tell you something, dude. I thought it was just get up there and talk about football. Like, I could talk about football, but when you're trying to do play-by-play and you got to build chemistry with
the play-by-play guy, yeah.
The play-by-play guy. If you don't have chemistry, it's hard. And on top of that, you have to know all of the players, not just the first, second string, third string guys, because those third string guys could be making plays on special teams, and you have to have, you have to know stuff about those guys, and then you have to know about the new incoming active players that they just signed that week, because he can come make a play. Like, and then there's so much that's going on. I can tell you this. I think Tom Brady would rather be under a center identifying the defense than he is calling the play-by-play for these games.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. I think part of the reason why he's struggling is he's not allowed to go to meetings anymore, because now he has a part ownership with Vegas, so he's not allowed to go to the meetings, and he's not allowed to criticize refs or players. The whole thing I want to hear from Tom Brady is, tell me why this person is struggling. What's going on? What's this guy doing wrong? And he feels like it's so artificial. Like, all his prep is coming out on game day. Sometimes it's not about the prep. Sometimes it's just, watch what you saw there. You're one of the smartest minds football's ever seen. Tell me what you are thinking. And it feels like he's not doing that. He's like trying to like show how much he prepped. You know what I mean? And like give you all the stuff
he's just being very careful with what he said.
That's also true, which it doesn't work.
That can be very hard when you're trying to give a true opinion on something.
Kind of like you about Woody Johnson earlier in the podcast.
See what I'm saying? Now you get it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I got a question for you. Sorry about that. I have a question for you. Do you think the Jets have a season? Like, do you think... I know this week is important. We'll get to this week's game after a quick break. But, like, when I was looking at the Dolphins, I'm like, man, if they just beat Buffalo this week, like, I trust the Dolphins, right? I've seen what that offense is capable of. I see what Tua can do. I know Tyreek Hill. I know HN and all those guys there, and Waddle. I know Mike McDaniels can coach a good offense. Like, I still wouldn't count Miami out, and yet they're 2-6. The Jets are 3-6. So, like, maybe I should be looking at the Jets like, hey, they have Aaron Rodgers. They have Devontae Adams. They got a great defense. Don't count them out. Like, it's funny when it's not my team, I can look objectively and say, don't count them out. But for my team, for some reason, I can't see it. Like, do you see it? Do you look, when you look at the Jets, do you look at a team like, don't let them get hot?
I mean, don't let them get hot, but I don't think they're going to get hot.
Okay. I mean,
I think they'll win games, but I don't think they'll win enough games to get into the postseason.
I agree.
I think it's probably a couple weeks too late to make that run when the opportunities were laid out before. And I think
that's what we talked about with the Pittsburgh game. That's what we talked about with the New England game.
New England game, those are the games you needed before you talked about making a run and sneaking into the playoffs. And I think now it's just probably a little too late. You probably can get a couple good wins, a few wins that's remaining in the season, but I don't think it'll be enough to go on and play in the postseason.
They have 8 games left. If I had to predict today, I'd say they go 4-4, finish the season 7-10.
Yep, and I think that's at best right now, and they've let some opportunities slip away. And those are the opportunities that you always talk about. You never know which one it is, and it doesn't catch up until it catches up.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about this upcoming game against the Cardinals on Sunday. All right, coming back, the Jets had extra time off. That's I feel like you guys hate the short week going to Thursday Night Football, right? But then once you get that Thursday night game over with, you got the 10-day break. Like, how great is that break?
I like the break, but some coaches, I've had 3 head coaches, right? So they do different things. Some guys let you just have the whole entire Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, see you Monday. And some guys say, hey, come in Friday, you got Saturday, Sunday off, see you Monday. It's just, it depends on what that coach likes and what he believes in, his system and his team. But I enjoyed it. It was one of those points where, hey, I can go to a dinner or we can go to the city, stay in the city for a couple of days with the family and the kids and enjoy a short time off.
We have line movement on this game, by the way. I just looked up again. The Jets were plus 1.5. It was Cardinals by 1.5. Now it's moved to Jets by 1.5. I don't know why the Jets are favored now. And this has happened every week that the line has moved towards the Jets. Like, people think the Jets are actually going to win this game. So we'll get to that a little bit later. It's interesting for me. Something we were just talking about during the break. The Jets have had a hard time containing the run. And James Conner is a hard runner. And I think the biggest problem for the Jets in the run game when you talk about running backs is missed tackles. How many times do you see guys with arm tackles or not getting up and being tough and being physical? It feels like the Jets even Quincy Williams had a chance, and he's one of their best tacklers. He had a chance to make a play. I think it's Joe Mixon, right, in the backfield and stop him. And instead, Joe Mixon sidesteps him, gets out of an arm tackle, and gets into the end zone. And give Mixon credit, but the Jets tackling is bad.
I mean, usually when you see things like that, it's when teams are not meshing. And, when you try to keep out the outside noise, but the Jets defense this and the Jets defensive line, and you find guys trying to do a little too much and get themselves out of position or out of gaps. And, I feel like I can go make this play when it's not his job to go make that play. I think the New York Jets defensive line needs to play a little better. We saw a glimpse of that against Houston. They did a good job of controlling the line of scrimmage. But like you said, I've seen them struggle against the run, let alone running quarterbacks. So, I think a lot of it has to do with the scheme, and a lot of it has to do with putting your players in the best position to be successful.
The Cardinals' their defense is giving up a ton of points. So can the Jets offense continue to build on what they did? They're 25th in the league in total yards allowed. So they're giving up a lot of points. They're playing really well. Do you think the Jets offense can continue to play well against the Cardinals' poor defense?
I think so, because everything that is affecting the New York Jets from being successful are fixable things. It's not a lack of talent. It's things that you can fix. And I think once they do that, and I think now that you kind of secured the leadership from Devontae Adams, calling a players meeting his first week there and, making everybody uncomfortable, I think that's a good sign for the New York Jets. When you're talking about that leadership role and the expectations and guys that came from successful organizations, guys that needed to be verbal before it was too late. We had this conversation last year. You can't have those conversations with players too late. And I think he came in saying, hey, I know I'm new, but we still have this much season left. And now you put him in his offense now for the 3rd straight week, you're going to start to see their offense, I think, progress. Progress because now you got to focus on a Devontae Adams, which leaves a Garrett Wilson open. So now you can't load the box. And now you have a Breece Hall and a Braylon Allen in the backfield. And now that helps out the offensive line when you're not loading the box. And now linebackers are playing light because of the pass game. So, it's one of those things where things start to add up and go in the right direction when you have the right guys in the building. And I think they have the right guys in the building, and hopefully they're able to put it together.
Rodgers talked about that. He said, pick your poison. But what's funny is you talked about the extra time off. I hope, and I don't know if this is the case, I hope they were working on the offense and saying, hey, let's tweak this. Let's get better at this during those extra time off. If I know this team, I bet they actually took the time off and were not in the building working. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. They finally started to look good. They should be in the building every day working on those details that you talked about. Like, how do we build on this offense? I don't know that they did that, but I hope against a bad Cardinals defense that we could see a team that comes out on offense that looks like they actually worked on some things.
Yeah, and listen, I easier said than done, right? And I know people say, well, why aren't you in the building? You know why I'm not in the building? Because I have a family and I need time off. Like, this is a long, hard, cutthroat game. And as a professional, you still need your time off. You need your time away from the game. But we're not part of the game plan. The coaching staff is. It's the coaching staff. Now, when you start seeing the coaching staff out partying and you start to see the coaching staff taking time off, then you have to question yourself as an owner, as a general manager, as a player to coach to player. How much time are those guys putting in? Because those guys are the ones that are putting us in the position to go be successful. And if they don't put us in the right place, then we can't be successful. We have to at least be in a successful position to be successful. And that's what this is all about. So I would hope that those quality control, offensive analysts, assistant coaches, coordinators, they're in film right now, breaking it down with a long, 3 days off. And they're 3 extra days that gives them a chance to get ahead of the opponent. And, it's take your time off as players. But the biggest thing is taking care of your body. Now, get in there. If you got some nicks and bruises, get in, take care of your body. But get away from the game when it allows you to.
Have you ever tried the cayenne pepper and water to help heal faster? Because Aaron Rodgers says it works.
No.
You never tried that?
No.
No, I haven't tried it either. But you know what? Todd Downing and Jeff Ulbrich don't really strike me as the type of guys who are out in a club partying, so hopefully they're preparing.
You have some coaches that do now. Don't get it twisted.
No, I'm sure there are.
I won't put any names out there, but yeah.
Oh, I could see Rex getting down. Not gonna lie. Todd Bowles, probably not. I don't know. He just doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's out partying. Like, he seems like a serious guy. By the way, speaking of Todd Bowles, do you watch the Monday Night Football game?
I did.
You have to go for 2 there, right?
I think so.
Like, don't give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. What are you doing?
Yeah, because honestly, and the reason I say go for 2 is because you scored. That's going to be the best position that you're probably going to have to win the game, and you kick it to them. Even if, here's the thing, even if you win the coin toss, you still have to go 80 yards when you have the chance to win the game at the 3-yard line. So I think, you go for 2 at that time, and it is what it is.
And he messed up earlier because he called a timeout too soon, right? He called a timeout, and then he left 27 seconds on the clock anyway. Save that last timeout. Let it dwindle down. Troy Aikman called it out like in the moment, but that just sucks. So anyway, I got another question for you about the Jets and their defense. So even when they're not giving up yards to the running back, they're giving up a lot of rush yards to quarterbacks. We know that Kyler Murray is a running quarterback. Now, this last game, they got 8 sacks on C.J. Stroud, but they're still letting him run around a lot, which C.J. Stroud is not like a running quarterback. Drake May was running all over them. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, why are they giving up so many yards? Is it as simple as, hey, you need a guy who's going to spy, and you're just, hey, this is one guy who's just going to spy Kyler Murray the whole game? Like, how does that work? I know we talked about sometimes when you're so preoccupied with rushing the quarterback, the outside edge rushers get too upfield, and that's when it creates holes for the quarterback to just take off and scramble. What are you seeing from the Jets defense and why they're allowing so many rush yards to quarterbacks?
I think rule number one with pass rush is you can't be deeper than the quarterback. If you find yourself getting deeper than the quarterback, you have to stop and redirect and close that lane, because the deeper you get upfield, the wider that run lane get. All right, and good quarterbacks, especially Kyler Murray, he's able to get through. He's small. You can't see him. Like, even if you spy him, you can't see him in the pocket. So,
how does he see?
Exactly. That's probably why he's running. He's running for his life.
Because he can't see around the offensive lineman.
He can't. No, but it's just one of those things where you have to be able to have sound defenses when it comes to rush lanes. You have to be able to redirect. You have to be able to get your interior guy to get a pass rush. That's the number one thing. If you're going to get guys upfield on the outside, then those two interior defensive linemen have to get some kind of penetration in order to get him to go east and west instead of north and south. East and west is send him back to that rush. If you don't get him east and west and he goes north and south, and you got a guy coming upfield and then you got a guy not penetrating the line of scrimmage, then this guy's going to squeeze out, and then you get guys running vertical routes on the outside. Your linebackers are dropping deep. Your corners are dropping deep. You're talking about 8 to 12 yards, 20 yards, attempt with a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's my X factor. For me, it's the defensive line containing him, because I think they need to get pressure with 4. Because if you could get pressure with 4, and we've seen this last week, they actually were doing a good job. Now, the Cardinals' offensive line is better than the Texans' banged-up offensive line, but Quinnen Williams has been an absolute beast the last couple of weeks. So if you have Quinnen and Kinlaw, who's been better the last couple of weeks, and now you have Will McDonald, who's been really good on one side, and you have Hassan Reddick, who looked really good finally on the other side, maybe you get pressure with 4. And then if you do that, then you could have Jamian Sherwood or Quincy Williams or one of the safeties watching Kyler and protecting the run, while you're not hurting your defensive secondary, and you could still play a defense back there. So my X factor is really the whole front 7. Get pressure with 4 and let the other guys be able to contain Kyler while playing coverage.
Yeah, and listen, the New York Jets have been struggling to get to the quarterback, and a lot of quarterbacks have been extending plays, not by just running downfield, but just by getting outside of the pocket, keeping their eyes downfield, and things like that happen with explosive passes.
Jacoby Brissett did it. That's what he was. Yeah.
Pass interferences happen and deep balls happen when you don't get to the quarterback. When quarterbacks find a way to extend plays, so they have to find a way to get to the quarterback, especially him, a guy that can make every throw and a guy that can beat you with his legs.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have an X factor in this game outside of that?
X factor in this game, I think it's going to be the linebackers. Just being able to be there for run support. I want
How awesome has Jamian Sherwood been?
He's been pretty good. He's surprising.
It's crazy, because people are like, oh, CJ's down. What's going to be? CJ's getting a little older. And Jamian's been, to me, just watching him, I don't know, but watching the games, it feels like he's been really good. Maybe not Quincy or CJ in his prime, but he's been a really good linebacker for them.
Yeah, he has. And, that's one of the things that as a general manager, you want to try to find the guys that give you the smallest margin of talent. There's no huge separation from 1 to 2. I think that's when you become, a very powerful organization and team. And he's stepped in and played really good football. And, obviously, when does CJ come back? I haven't even – what's the report on that?
Because he came back and then he was out again, and he might come back. So I'm not even sure. He might be on the injury report for this week. But, yeah, it's tough because he's been on and off the injury report. And even when he came back and played that 1 week, he didn't play a ton. And I think part of the reason why is probably because they feel like you don't need him a ton with how well
Sherwood
Sherwood has played.
Yeah, and listen, that's part of the game, and that's the feeling that I've seen. I've seen the look in guys' eyes when a veteran finds himself sitting on the sideline and a young guy's playing very well. That kind of lets you know what next year could look like. Yep. It gives you a glimpse of the future. When you're not part of that deal anymore, and they're going with the younger guy, they're going with another guy.
Yeah, CJ did not practice yesterday. He had some procedures on his neck, so I don't know.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's what I just read
Like a
from Zach.
massage? Like, what do you mean procedure?
Yeah, it says here
Acupuncture?
that's what it. Yeah, to loosen it up.
Probably
So
acupuncture. A dry needle.
yeah, I don't know. This is what I'm reading from Zach Rosenblatt from the Athletics. So
So that's not good.
yeah, so he didn't practice again yesterday. We shall see what happens moving forward. Do you have a touchdown score for the Jets?
Touchdown scorer for the New York Jets. I'm gonna have to go with Devontae Adams. I think they're on to something now. Garrett had two last week. Now I think it's Devontae for two. I'm gonna call Devontae for two. One's gonna be a back shoulder, and one's gonna be a fade left side.
Left
That's
side. All
all.
right.
Let's go.
I think Devontae Adams also. They started the game last week with a go route by Devontae. They had one-on-one on the outside that could have been a touchdown, a 70-yard touchdown to start the game, and Rodgers overthrew him out, threw it out of bounds.
And
Yeah.
he has been missing some shots now. I know we talk about the drops that the New York
Yeah.
Jets are having, but
That first half was rough.
He has missed some passes this year.
He
Sure.
said that was the worst half of football he's played in his career. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, but yeah, I think that I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I say Devontae scores. I hate to go chalk and give you a different touchdown score. But I would like to give you a different one, but I think Devontae scoring. How about I said last week, I said that Rodgers would score, and he almost scored. You saw his little scramble, and then it gets called back for a hold. I thought he was going to get in.
And speaking of being called back for a hold, I think the Jets have to eliminate the penalties on both
I think the
sides.
second
of the
half
ball.
they did, though. The second half on offense, at least, they eliminated. Defense, still, they got away with the running into the snap.
But defense, but they're getting personal fouls.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like personal fouls, like they're getting the big penalties that are extending drives and giving the opposing team automatic first downs. Like
Yes.
that hurt. So they need to eliminate those things because those things that you can control, like the personal fouls, like the after the
mistakes.
play, unsportsmanlike conduct. All those things. And then from an offensive standpoint, you can't really control the holding calls, but you can control the pre-snap stuff, pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. So they need to do a better job of that.
What's your prediction for the game final score? What do you think?
Oh, my goodness. What's it, 1.5?
Yeah, Jets by 1.5 now. It was Cardinals by 1.5.
What's the over-under?
I think 45.5.
Okay. I'll go. Oh, my goodness. I go. It's the tough one, bro. I go 24-23 Jets.
But you have Arizona covering the 1.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Go.
I actually do think there's going to be points in this game too, but I think that Arizona's just going to be trying to keep the Jets offense off the field, run the ball, keep the Jets defense out there, tire them out, keep running it, and at the end of the game, I think they'll pull away. I think Arizona's just going to keep the Jets offense off the field enough that if the Jets make mistakes, and this is the problem, we've seen the Jets have good drives just falter, and you only get 6-7 drives a game with these long drives, and they haven't had like big quick scoring plays, the Jets offense. So all it takes is one bad drive, and all of a sudden the team, your opponent has back-to-back long drives that end up in scores, and you find yourself down 2 scores all of a sudden, right? You find yourself down 10 points. So I think the Jets lose. I think they lose by 10. I think the final score is something like 27-17 Cardinals. That's what I have. Yeah, I think the Jets lose big in this game. Like I said, 27-17 Cardinals. I think it'll seem closer, but I think it'll be like 20-17. The Cardinals have the ball, and the Jets are trying to get the ball back, and they just run the ball right down their throat, like a 5-minute drive to end the game and close it out with a touchdown drive. That's how I see this game going, and I think that's the official death to the season. But a season that's probably died 3 weeks ago. I have a question for you though. As you know, we talk about the season being dead. this is probably the last week. If they lose this week, then like there's nothing else to talk about. But this is the last week. At least the guys in the building are going in there talking about, oh, we're just stringing together. We got to band together. We got to fight for each other. We believe. Like, do you like the attitude that you've seen from the guys, like talking about how they believe and how they know that they can go on a run and it's going to be special? Or is it like, hey, you guys aren't special. You're not going to go on a run. Like, maybe play better football and then you could start going on a run. Like, is there a fine line between confidence and you want them to be confident that they could do it and like, hey, guys, be realistic. You guys suck right now?
I think it's one of those mindset things where if you say it's done and it's done, and if you say, hey, we can do it, then you can do it. But in order for you to do it, there's only one way to do it, and that's the way you practice, right? That's the way you prepare, and that's the way you play. So you can do it, but it's going to be hard to do it. Or
that's
you
almost
can
the
say,
problem.
hey, it's over and go through the motions, and then obviously the cold weather is colder when you're losing, and the hits are harder, and that guy's chewing too loud now, and I really don't like him. I hope he don't come back and the fingers start pointing. It could get to that point because you still have 8 games left, or you can go out and say, you know what, we can do this, guys. But you know how you're gonna do it. You probably got to stay in meetings extra. You probably gotta practice a little different. And you got to go out and you have to execute. You have to play in a manner that you haven't played all year consistently for the next 8 weeks remaining for this, regular season.
But that's my problem with this team. My problem is that they talk like, hey, we have the talent to do it. We're just going to go out there and do it because we're capable of it. I don't think it works that way. Like all the mistakes they've made all year, it feels like, oh, you're just going to turn it on now. No, you guys have to work harder. You guys have to get in meetings more. You guys have to stay out longer at practice. And it doesn't feel like that's what they're talking about. It feels like they're talking about, hey, we have the talent, so it should just figure itself out. Like our talent will get us there. And that's why I think they're not going to turn it around. It's been all year. They've just been relying on themselves. You know what I mean? Like it almost feels like they've just been relying on it's going to happen because we're talented enough to do it.
But I would say this, though, to Devontae Adams' defense, been there 1 week and standing up and saying something. Maybe they needed to hear that. Maybe the guys that thought they were leaders needed to hear that. And hear it come from someone that just came in and being a high-profile guy. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers probably hasn't stood up and said anything. He's probably mentioned it to just the offensive side of the ball, but I'm sure didn't Devontae get in front of the whole team and say it and do it, and that's the difference in it. So
yeah, but then their next game was the Patriots game, their worst game of the year.
Hey man, I'm trying to give us some hope. You got to believe in it.
I hope you're right. Like if they come back and start winning a bunch of games, like it'll be the most magical season they've ever had. To go from 2-6 to making the playoffs would be crazy, but I don't see it. Like I can't see it like realistically, they have to go 7-1 at worst the rest of the way in order to make the playoffs. How's that going to happen with this team and the amount of mistakes they make?
We'll see. Hopefully they change it. Hopefully. I'm not saying
you know what? Here's what I want, and this sounds like such a loser talk. The last 2 games of the season, I think, are against Miami and against Buffalo. Let me look it up. I think I'm right about that. I know the last game of the season is Buffalo, but I think the last 2 games are Miami and Buffalo. So, yeah, let me look here. Yeah, no, the last game of the season is Miami. The second to last game of the season is Buffalo. This is loser talk. I'm warning you right now. This is loser talk. If they get, and with 2 games left, they'd have to be at let's say they're 8-7 going into those last 2 weeks. Which means that until then, they have to go 5-1. So I'm not expecting it. But if they're 8-7 going into the last 2 weeks, that's all I could ask for at this point. Make those last 2 weeks meaningful. 2 divisional games, Buffalo and Miami, make it meaningful.
And, at that time, who knows what the outcome could be. I mean, you'll probably have to worry about so many different scenarios to get in.
For sure. Yeah.
you still have hope of getting in if you finish at 8-7. We've been on that situation in 2011 where if we beat it was us versus the Giants 2011, and if
Well, you
we
guys
win,
were 8-5 and lost 3 in a row.
yeah, and that third game came from the
Miami.
Giants.
No,
Oh,
the third
Miami.
game was Miami with the
Miami.
last game. The
Miami.
Giants was the week before.
Yeah, so and they got in and we didn't. And then they went on at 8-8 to go on to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then you had that game with that was the Tebow game also that year that you lost in Denver.
Yes.
What was that, Thursday Night Football?
Yes, man.
The Giants game was the Saturday. That was the Victor Cruz 99-yard touchdown. I see that play still in my head over and over again.
Yes, 99 yards, Victor Cruz.
My God. That turned
two
two
franchises.
franchises.
It was just a hitch.
You guys could have gone on. I think you win that game. You go on. You guys probably make it to the playoffs, do some special things. Instead, it's the opposite. The Giants go on and win the Super Bowl. That was like it was like literally it was the fork in the road of that season, and that sucks, man. That game sucks. And you had, you remember, I don't know if you remember this, you were on the sideline, but that was the game that Santonio Holmes turned his back on the team, right? He turned around, wasn't watching the game in Miami. He took himself off the field, right?
Oh, man.
You guys still had a chance because if you would have gone 9-7, you needed help, but you still had a chance. And Santonio Holmes was like looking the other way. He gave up in that Miami game.
Few guys got into it that day. What? Some guys got into it. I won't say any names, but it was some stuff going on in a lot.
You're like Tom Brady. You're just walking on eggshells everywhere.
Yeah. I just don't like to throw dudes under the bus, but yeah, it was something that went on that game.
There was
more. But if we handled business, though, we wouldn't have been in that predicament. If we would have won
agree.
At least one out of the three, we would have been in the playoffs. So, that was on us. That wasn't on anybody else.
No, so that's what the Jets have to say to themselves. If this season continues to go down the drain, it's on the players. It's on them. They have to look themselves in the mirror. So we'll see what that's all about. All right. That'll do it for us. It's been a long episode. So until next time, everybody, like, subscribe, share the podcast. We appreciate you all for listening. That's Bilal Powell. I'm Rami Lavi. This is Believe in Jets. See ya.